Hi guys, welcome back to TOEFL with Juva. The TOEFL Home Edition is a great option for anyone who wants to take the TOEFL at home. I took the TOEFL Home Edition and it was great. However, if you run into problems, this can really lower your score. In this video, I will give you 8 tips for a smooth TOEFL Home Edition experience. Let's get started! By the way, if you want to get your dream TOEFL score, check out my TOEFL materials. Here you can find templates, courses, sample answers, and much more to boost your score. To access the TOEFL materials, click on the link in the description. Also, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss the next video. Let's start with tip number 1, good internet. You must have access to reliable internet to take the test. Most of the problems related to the TOEFL Home Edition happen when the internet connection is lost. Be sure to shut down any apps and anything else that may use bandwidth during the test. During the test, a person called a proctor will monitor what you are doing to confirm that you are not cheating. This person is trained to help with technical problems too. For example, if you can't hear the listening section, wave or use the chat function. The timer will stop until the problem is fixed. However, you really don't want to experience such problems in the first place. It's really stressful. Therefore, select a place with good internet access to take the test. We will move on to tip number 2, read the checklist. Now, you're probably wondering how much bandwidth is enough. That's a good question. Well, the ETS, the company who offers the TOEFL, has a checklist that includes technical information like that. It tells you all the rules you need to know before taking the test. The checklist explains all the requirements for your computer, such as having a camera. It also explains the rules for your room and what you can have on your desk. In addition, it tells you what you are allowed to wear or not. For instance, you can wear religious headwear, but you must show your ears and face. Guys, it's really important to read this checklist. Make sure that your computer is ready and that you follow the rules so you can have a smooth test. Tip number 3 is have a quiet room. Make sure that your room is quiet and appropriate for taking the test too. The proctor must be able to see the door, and you can't have things on the walls or desk that help you solve the questions. You also need to sit at a desk, not lie on a sofa or bed. Pick a well-lit room that is a comfortable temperature and make sure that everyone in the house knows to stay out during your test. You can't use headphones, so make sure that the room is quiet too. You don't want a lot of distracting noise from outside that could break your concentration. I suggest practicing a few times in the room where you will take the test, so you are used to it before the actual test day. That way, you can also identify any potential problems before the test. Let's check out tip number 4, check in early. The check-in process is a bit long, since you have to log into the ETS test account, get assigned to a proctor, show your ID and room to the proctor. Therefore, I suggest getting your computer set up and ready to go well before the actual test. In fact, if you have a hard time connecting and haven't checked in, you could risk having the test cancelled. If you are 20 minutes late, the test is cancelled with no refund. Running late is also really stressful, which can lower your score. Avoid these problems by getting set up early. Tip number 5 is get used to a whiteboard. During the test, you are allowed to take notes. However, you can't use a pencil and paper. The TOEFL test people want to make sure that you don't share any of the questions after the test is over. Thus, you can only take notes on a whiteboard or white paper inside a clear folder. You can write with an erasable marker since you must erase everything at the end of the test. The proctor will ask to see the erased board when you are done. Practice using a whiteboard, including taking time to erase notes between sections. Select a pen that isn't too wide so it's easier to write. And be sure that you have a pen with plenty of ink for the actual test. In other words, get used to the things you will use during the test so that nothing distracts you from the TOEFL. Let's have a look at tip number 6, eat a good meal. This is another detail that can distract you. The TOEFL test is long and you can't have any food or drink in the room with you. As a result, you may get hungry. Be sure to eat a good meal before the test, so you are alert and can stay focused. You might want to think about your usual meal times when scheduling the test too. Let's go on with tip number 7. Don't panic. No matter how prepared you are, problems may arise. Whatever you do, don't panic. Solving computer issues may take time, but that time is not subtracted from your test. For example, if you are cut off in the middle of the listening test, you will have a chance to hear the whole passage again. You are also not alone in solving the problem. The proctor will be monitoring your screen and can override some functions on your computer. So if you wait, the proctor will often solve technical issues. During that time, don't get upset and panic. I know it's not easy, but try to relax. You can look away from the screen, stretch, and take big breaths so you're ready when the testing program is ready to go again. Finally, tip number 8 is contact the proctor. The proctor is not just there to make sure you don't cheat. If you have any questions or problems, raise your hand and wave to engage in a conversation. If you can't talk directly with the computer speakers, use the chat function. The proctor is trained to solve many technical difficulties. Wait for the proctor to help rather than trying to open different apps or functions yourself. In fact, if you try such options, the proctor may think you're trying to cheat and cancel your test. Therefore, follow instructions. If you can't get in touch with the proctor for any reason, try the phone number that is included in the emails about the TOEFL test registration. It may take time, but one of those methods should ensure that you get the help you need to complete the test. In other words, if you follow the rules, have a reliable internet connection, and select a good place to take the test, the TOEFL Home Edition is a great way to take the TOEFL without having to go to an official test center. That's it! That's 8 tips for a smooth TOEFL Home Edition test. I hope this video was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions or a video wish, comment below and I would love to see you here next time. Bye bye! By the way, if you want to get your dream TOEFL score, check out my TOEFL materials. Here you can find templates, courses, sample answers, and much more to boost your score. To access the TOEFL materials, click on the link in the description. Also, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss the next video.